so why not? Go for it.
Well, I think you have to reach out, and you have to seek it out.
And there are many organizations, as you alluded to, and many of them are state-funded. And so can you find ways of bringing those various centers together to pursue a common overarching goal? In our organization, we know that there's a very, very strong polymer industry within the state, and that there's a very, very high opportunity and need for the use of polymers in cardiovascular devices. So we've been working with the University of Akron, and we've been working with Compound, and we've been working with the other centers to try to bring that technology and that industry together with ours to try to find ways of putting it together for various solutions. That's happened with the imaging industry, and there's a big imaging cluster here, but there's an imaging center in Columbus that is funded by the state, and working together, bringing our technologies and their technologies, the companies that we're funding and the research that they're funding together, will have an opportunity, I think, to make it a larger contribution overall. And that's just two examples of many different opportunities throughout the state, and that will cross the very many regions that are within the state, and which focus on their individual needs and strengths. I think we can bring them together.
Let's get another question.
Hi. I have a question with regard to talent. And what I have to say is when Ohio is trying to bring other companies into the region to strengthen the pipeline of companies in Ohio, and each company is trying to strengthen the pipeline of the products and services, how is the state trying to strengthen the pipeline of knowledge workers to support the growing industry? I'm not talking about the workforce retraining programs. I'm talking about the existing workforce and how to support the growing industry.
Dr. Gershon, you want to take that?
Well, I could take it just from our specific. We're a community-based academic health center, and we train physicians and we train pharmacists. So we do that through partnerships with 4 universities in the region here. And what we're trying to do is direct some of that into more primary care training and attracting individuals who go into primary care. So we've put together this high school to practice pipeline, whereby we're working now with, for example, Cleveland State University, and Ron Berkman and I have been working on how to get into the schools, get kids interested in health professions, get the mentors and the role models to have the students feel that they can make it and be encouraged to make it. Go to Cleveland State and take the courses and get the baccalaureate degree and the post-baccalaureate courses. Matriculate at near UCOM. Go to the Cleveland hospitals. We've been talking with all the large providers here in town. There seems to be an interest. Work in those hospitals as residents and then practice in those communities. And what we're suggesting is that education for service, that we would provide, we'd raise the money to provide a no-expense education for the student in exchange for 5 years of service in an underserved neighborhood.
Really?
And this is something that we just kicked off. We're working on it now. And it's a way to incentivize students, because see, medical students have $150,000 in debt after 4 years. Pharmacy students have $90,000 in debt. If we can eliminate that debt, we can encourage individuals to go into communities that they may not have considered going into. And frankly, if we can homegrow the providers and try and recruit them from those communities, then we have people going home. Mm-hmm. So homegrown students getting a medical education close to home and going back home to practice.
Mm-hmm. Our next question.
David Simpson, Hospice of the Western Reserve. How do we prevent the language of this capital from going out in front of the capital before it really exists, so that the terminology doesn't end up like the plum?
Is it the case you think that it doesn't exist yet?
I don't know. Is it too early to self-proclaim? Or is it better to wait till others recognize? Did people in Silicon Valley self-proclaim, or did that follow? That's really the...
That's an interesting question. Anybody who wants to take that?
Well,
Again, if you look at it as
Mark
a
Lau.
framework, not a brand, and if it's, as the comment was made earlier about shaping a conversation, I think it can work. And as I mentioned earlier, I think there is a basis here. I think there is a foundation that is real and that is recognized. And so if you highlight the facts and you draw those together to create a message, and then you use that in discussion, I don't think we're out ahead of the horse. I think if you think about it as a brand and just the term, then you might have to do a little more selling than really is necessary. Think about it as a framework and a structure for a conversation. I like that point.
Another question?
Yes. I have a question about the Medical Mart and how that impacts the brand and the conversation. That was sold to us on the basis of 50 medical conferences every year. And I wonder what is going to happen to the brand and the conversation and what we're going to do about it when those 50 medical conferences a year do not happen, as we know they won't.
It's an interesting point. I don't know that we know that they will or they won't, but we don't know that they will because we don't know a lot about that project, I suppose. Does anybody, I don't know that anybody up here on our panel is actually qualified to address that question, but if anybody would like to take a stab, Mark Lowe, you look like...
We see some Medical Mart people in the
We do
audience.
have
Maybe
Medical
we
Mart
should
people in the
defer.
audience. Do we have a microphone available?
I think it's
Can
a
we-
tremendous opportunity in a positive way. I don't think that we have to look at it as the only opportunity to make us successful.
Is there, do we or don't we have people from the Medical Mart available to... what a happy coincidence.
Hi, my name's Greg Sanker, and my role is to attract tenants to the Mart and my colleagues here to the Convention Center. I'd suggest respectfully that that conclusion is quite premature. We've got a very talented staff here. We've got a number of letters of intent for both the Medical Mart and conventions, and I again respectfully think that your comment's off base. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. Who's next?
Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Sussman, the Dean of the College of Medicine at New UCOM, and it's a pleasure to be here. I have a question. Are we talking about being a medical capital or the medical capital?
What's the difference to your mind?
Well, an A is sort of a me too. We're not quite good enough to be the Mecca, the medical capital. We're just one of 50 or 75 or 100. I don't hear most corporations branding themselves as one of many.
Not that we're branding ourselves.
Not that we be branding.
India Pierce Lee of the Cleveland Foundation.
Well, I think that, this conversation has been going on since, 2008 or so. And the fact sheet you have, I think it's, as we talked about, the conversation begins. And if each of us start thinking about in our collective roles, how do we tell that story and how do we relate to it as not only organizations, but the work that we do, I think that we will become the. And like anything else, it takes time. When I mentioned Greater University Circle, 5 years ago, that term did not exist. But the more we said it, if you go, and we always say, you go to Tom Zentier or Toby Gosgrove or Barbara Schneider, they say we're part of Greater University Circle. We got a lot of work to do and to share the story, and we're starting to do that. I think the opportunity is even grander here.
Our next question.
Thank you. I'm Jean Collar, and I'm the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at John Carroll University. Chris is one of our alumni. My question is related to some of the remarks Dr. Gershon made about the preparation needed to produce the talent pool that not only has the training in requisite fields of science or business, but also has the social commitment to return to the community.
How do you instill that, essentially? Dr. Gershon, you start, please.
That's a great question, and I think what needs to be done is you've got to bring the whole social fabric of the community along with it. You just can't have the courses. So, the community needs to support this. The churches, the community organizations, all the groups you're working with, this needs to be something that we all do together.